In football, there is probably, the offensive line, total reputation position. Hi, I'm Marky Billson, Tri-City Sports Now. Hear me on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio or jetbroadcasting.live, or maybe you're watching on Facebook right now. Either live or archived. I put the show on there for many to see from both near and far. Anyway, offensive line, before I get to Tennessee, which I promised you about 15 minutes ago, I am going to tell you about ETSU. The starting center is all but named. Of course, Matt Pike graduated after playing, I believe, every game that the Buccaneers had played since their football revival back in 2015. But a man who has been with the team since that time, he just was a redshirt freshman, was Ben Blackman, and he'll get the start at center. Now, he was on a SoCon honor roll last year and started in all 12 games for the Bucks, but he'll be moved over to center, and, so he was named actually to the preseason All-SoCon second-team offense. I did mention the scrimmage. ETSU did not, at least early on, seem to want to go out of the shotgun, which may explain a little bit more. It may lean a little more to a running offense, which is what I think they ought to be doing. However, by moving Blackman to center, interesting, because 4 starters returned, there was a feeling on the O-line, and in fact, I remember asking Tremont Shorts about this, and they like the run blocking. Now, perhaps Shorts would be the person that would move in to the offensive line. He's named the Phil Steele Magazine preseason third-team All-SoCon. Named preseason All-second-team offense. He was on the All-American squad. Last year. Didn't allow any sacks to VMI in the offensive line last year. Okay, well, tell me who did allow sacks to VMI last year, too, But he was an all-freshman player, so he talked to him, and he said, look, I like running the ball. We do the hitting when it's the running game. So if we have to go to the eye, we'll go to the eye. We'll just hold that hit a little bit longer. He wasn't all that intimidated by it, is what he told me. Of course, do you really think that he'll shiver in his boots and say, I can't hold the block that long? Of course not. But I am getting to Blackman was the center, and that there were fewer shotgun snaps in the early on, and there was a botched shotgun snap during the scrimmage at ETSU. However, I didn't see who it was that snapped the ball. So I'm going to be, But yeah, there's work to be done in replacing the graduated players on offense, including field goal kicker, because they tried 2 of them, the freshmen, and one of them missed a 40-odd yarder. There are 2 or 3 on field goals. So, the losses of ETSU, still the jury is out. And by the way, also, Tyreek Sandusky, not listed on the roster, no longer on the ETSU football team. I know he was the backup, I believe, against Jacksonville State. Marchie wasn't available for whatever reason. Of course, Marchie, since graduated, no longer at the program. So, yeah. And we'll find out what the rest of the situation is. I mentioned that, so now that's all the ETSU. We got half an hour, I got 36 minutes of ETSU out of the way. All right, we'll go NASCAR, and we'll go ETSU again at 1:30. I'm the ETSU guy. I tell you, they're D1 and they're in the Tri-Cities. That means they're the big league team. Of course, the big league event this week is the race in Bristol. So, night race. Tennessee Volunteers. I mentioned before that the Vols, if everything went right for them this year, 8-4. If everything goes wrong, 5-7. If everything goes wrong, then they lose to Vanderbilt and Kentucky, one of those games that they've been wanting to do, or BYU. They lose to Mississippi State. They lose to South Carolina. I think losses to Georgia, Alabama, although Alabama lost a running back. I'll tell you about that shortly. Although that is a bit wishful thinking, that still, that's going to be the difference. But Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, these are the teams that basically you say, okay, not going to be able to beat. All right, fine. That's the way it would seem to be. However, something positive. Trey Smith, of course, he had the blood clots in his lungs. Will he play? Will he not? But evidently practicing and evidently doing quite well. And impressing on the offensive line. That's big. That's very big, as a matter of fact. Still, though, Tennessee fans not necessarily happy with all the goings-on of the weekend after the scrimmage. Why would that be? Well, 49ers played a preseason game against the Cowboys. Remember, that was a really big deal. Right? I mean, I used to be every year for the, of course, it's a generation ago. I guess I'm dating myself, and all those. Yes, Brooklyn and New York, they used to always play for the World Series, I mean, that was a big thing back when as too. And, but yes, in the 90s, it seemed as if certainly in the beginning of the decade, the 49ers and the Cowboys were playing for the Super Bowl every year, it seemed. So, there you go. But they played over the weekend, and here's the thing, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have some people to throw to. Absolutely, he will. And one of them is Jalen Hurts, who is, of course, the former running back for the Vols 2 years ago, and he left Tennessee to go to Baylor. Did not want to play running back, saw the beating that he would take, thought his future was going to be as a wide receiver. Asked to be changed. Hey, let's have Kamara play running back. Butch Jones didn't see it that way, so Hurts left. Jalen Hurd. Hurts is the former Alabama quarterback. I get them mixed up. I can't be the only one. So Jalen Hurd. Got it correct this time. Now, this being said, Hurd had a couple of touchdown pass receptions against the Cowboys. And also, Deebo Samuels, South Carolina receiver, looked real good for the 49ers as well in that preseason game, which was a 14-3 game that it was 14-3 game that the 49ers were able to win. That was a final, was it not? 14-3? Okay. And so what happens? The Vols fans go to Twitter. Hurd caught 2 passes, like I said, for 2 touchdowns. The interesting thing is, sometimes Vols fans can get a little bit much. There's a guy named Josh Hamlin who turns out that he's a basketball coach somewhere.